we're going to jump to the cocktails, but I just wanted to say a couple things about, I'm sure you guys are curious what's going on with, you know, the market and how things have been moving. And you probably saw that the market today was not so awesome. But I like to compare the market right now to, I call it the chicken wing market. And why I call it the chicken wing market is because every time I walk into a grocery store, you know how you get that, you smell the fried chicken smell? Like it just smells so delicious. And it smells just, you know, syrupy and salty. And then I walk by the, you know, the chicken, like under the heater, and I end up always buying some of it. And then I go outside and I eat it. And it's kind of like, you know, the meat is kind of rubbery and the outside is kind of
nasty. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's got, or either it's so salty, it's like licking a salt lick, you know? So, you know, this market is a little bit like that, where you're not exactly sure what you're going to get. It smells really good. You know, there's like, it smells like something good's cooking, but, you know, we know that this economy is not exactly the best right now, but that's also a time when you can take advantage of a lot of movement in the market. And I think that, you know, over the next 6 months, we are going to see a lot of volatility. And the other thing that I want to say to you guys is, congratulations. And you guys are awesome, because I don't know if you realize this, but you just lived and invested through the most volatile stock market in history. Okay, so
with some good guidance, though. We had a good pilot.
All right. So since 1896, there has never been a stock market this volatile ever. So the good news is we all lived through it, and now we don't have to maybe worried about it anymore. It's doubtful that we'll get a market this crazy in our lifetimes. I guess it's possible. But, you know, we lived through the fastest sort of decline into a bear market. We've lived into the craziest movements up and down in the market ever in history. And we're all still here, and all of us made money. That's the beautiful thing about all of this, that we, you know, very aggressively invested and very aggressively adjusted our investments for everyone here, so that you could take advantage of a lot of the movement in the market. So there's just going to be more of that in the future. I'm not intimidated by it, but I'm kind of looking forward to it, actually, what's going to happen in the next 6 months. But I think we make it through the next 6 months. 2021 is going to be a good year. And the rest of this year is going to be great too. So again, congratulations to all of you. This is amazing. The last time that there was this much volatility in the stock market was in the 1920s. And I thought that was kind of an appropriate segue, because we're going to be talking about gin today. And I always associate gin with the 1920s, right? It's kind of the drink of the 20s. So I'm gonna introduce you guys to our instructor today. So Aaron Robin, who's come to us all the way from New York City, he's joining us. And I'll tell you, we'll talk a little bit about Aaron, and he can tell you a little bit more about himself. But so Aaron, you went to New York to be a dancer, is that right?
I did, yes, and I still am. I dance with a company called The Feather Theory. That's we do dance theater and media, and but through all of that, I've sort of cultivated this food and beverage career as well, which seems so cliche and classic. So, I just do my best at both, and here we are.
So you started as like you said, like a busser or something at the top of the Standard. Is that what you were doing?
Busser at, not even the top of the Standard. I was a busser at the ground floor at the outdoor bar. I walked up and I said, I've never had a restaurant job, but I need a job right now.
Oh, wow.
I was a plane like a week before, and I was like, I need a job. So
and then how did you work your way up to because now you're a head bartender, right, at the top of the Standard. So how did that happen?
Bartender. a lot of you know, waiting it out, being quiet, listening, learning a lot. You know, we were owned by Andre Balazs for a while, and he opened the whole hotel, and it was kind of a strange place to open a hotel anyway when he did. I got there sort of at the middle of its like rise, and then I got to be there for a lot of really cool experiences. I went from, you know, being a busser who didn't know what someone was ordering when they said a cappuccino to and like being very confused to now I got to work the Met Gala after party and help Lizzo onto the bar and clean the bar for her as she like danced around and performed for the likes of Celine Dion and a bunch of other amazing celebrities. So that building.
Yeah, I tried to do that myself, you know, to go and just to prospect, you know, just to hand people drinks and talk to them, and you know, I mean, it's the Met, right? Why not?
Listen, you just gotta shoot your shot.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so, how was it that you came to us?
Yeah. So Rosanna and I have been working together on some super cool curated boxes and cocktail experiences, and she mentioned that you were looking for someone who might want to teach cocktails, and she knows that I love teaching cocktails. I've taught 14 classes since this quarantine started, just on my Instagram, and then I also teach a history class on Course Horse called The History of the World Through Booze, and I teach another class called What's in the Bottle, where I interview producers of different spirits. I've done vermouth, Calvados, a Genever, and a rum, and a soju, and so I have like a deep interest in the history of spirits, but I also have a deep interest in the fun of spirits. So yeah, so that's sort of my like elevator pitch.
Right. That's
a long elevator ride.
Well, actually, I would say I discovered you. I saw you doing your live Instagram, and I was like, who is this guy? And I just loved everything about the way you taught cocktails, the way you interacted with everyone. You made it so fun, and I learned so much. And so I know you do that like every Thursday. And yeah, and so we're going to start doing our virtual classes in like just like 10 days or something like that. So yeah, so anyway, so there you go.
Yeah, so I'm going to turn it over to you, Aaron, and because I'm sure everybody's like ready for a cocktail. It's almost 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
Me too. It's
and it's Friday.
9 o'clock. Cool. Okay, so for our first one, it's maybe the most it is the most involved in terms of ingredients that we're going to need. We're going to need lime juice. So let's juice some limes. If you do have a fancy schmancy juicer, that's wonderful. If you don't, I always suggest over a glass, just take a fork, I'm going to show with a knife, and just shove it into the middle and squeeze and move the fork up and down. And that helps it'll get probably more juice than a juicer will.
Okay.
Also, everyone should have ice made. If you do, wonderful. If you don't, then throw whatever tonic water you have in the freezer now, and we'll just have that super cold, and we'll go very European with this and have it with no ice.
So we got the limes. And so when was this drink invented, Aaron?
Yeah, so this is, what we're gonna start with is a gimlet. And the gimlet was invented, it's a little vague about when it was invented. It was first written about in the Savoy cocktail book in 1930, which was a very early cocktail book. One of the first cocktail books was written in like 1863, I believe, by Jerry Thomas. And he had a sort of classic style, which is really what the gimlet is. But so while we juice limes, also if you will, I'm going to use a Nick and Nora glass. If you don't have one of these, a Coupe or even a rocks glass is great. I would say throw this in the freezer so that it's super cold and your drink stays really cold once you make it. So I'm going to do that.
Oh, you have yours ready. Excellent.
So for a little history on the invention of gin, we sort of have to look back to the Dutch. In 1590 AD, we have a Greek pharmacologist named Pedantus Dioscorides, and he says that juniper berries, if steeped in wine, which is interesting because we're sort of starting to see the beginning of a vermouth, but also the beginning of gin. He says if you steep juniper berries in wine, then it helps with chest ailments. He also says that if you burn a juniper bush, that it wards away snakes. And I have a theory that if you burn any bush, it will ward away snakes. But, you know, juniper bush, any other bush, great. So this alcohol has always been used in both ritual and medicine. Also, if anyone has any questions at any point about anything. Yes, I see a hand raised.
Hi, I'm Charles. How are you?
Hi, Charles. How's it going?
Hey, so we just have a question. How much lime do we need to squeeze?
For 2 people.
We're making 2. I would use 2 limes. You might have some extra lime juice, but we're going to use some for the next. What we're looking for is 1 ounce per drink for the first one for our gimlet. So that'll be 2 ounces for you folks, and then half an ounce per drink for the next one. So that'll be, you'll need a total of 3 ounces. For ounces, 1 ounce is 2 tablespoons. So that's either 6 tablespoons or 3 ounces.
I think I'm.
It's a lot of math. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's a lot of math.
Hey, I didn't bring my calculator. No.
I've gotten very quick with the tablespoon math. But so then we have Aelius Galenus, also known as Galen, who supposedly lived from 129 to 210 AD, which I don't believe because he was drinking a lot. But he says that juniper berries help to cleanse the liver and kidneys and thin any thick, viscous juices. Disgusting, right? But then by 1266, we have a Belgian theologian named Thomas van Cantentyre. And what's interesting about this is that this man's writing was translated from the Belgian language to Dutch. And what he says is he recommends boiling juniper berries in rainwater or wine, and that it helps with stomach pain. What's interesting about that is that it's translated to Dutch, and in the Netherlands, they start to produce something called Genever, which is a distillate of malt spirit, because they grow a lot of wheat, a malt spirit distilled with juniper berries. So they're probably thinking, oh, this helps with chest pain, it helps with stomach digestion, it helps, juniper berries help with all of these things. If we steep them in our wine, we might as well just throw them into the distillation process and then distill. So they produce what is called Genever, which is the name of a juniper berry in Dutch, and becomes the very early makings of gin, which will make its way to England, but we do have to make a simple syrup. So I'm going to teach you that next.
Ah, okay.
So for our simple syrup, we need to boil just a little bit of water. I would say boil around half a cup of water. It doesn't have to be all the way boiled, just very, very hot. And then we'll do 2 tablespoons of sugar per drink and 2 tablespoons of hot water. I'll give everyone a minute to heat up some water.
Yeah.
You put it in the microwave, right?
Yeah, microwave, any quick heat is easy.
Totally cheating.
How much did we say?
He says.
Oh, yeah, Rosanna look, she's got the package of
I
simple
cheated.
syrup.
I'm
If
cheating.
you have simple syrup ready, that's
Sorry,
wonderful.
I usually make my own, but I
So we don't have to boil water if we have this?
Yeah, if you already have simple syrup, wonderful, then you're good to go. If you do need to make simple syrup, don't worry, you've got plenty of time. We will, I have a lot of information to spread, and just let me know when you're ready for me. We have lots of lime juice. We have lime as well, which is very lucky. So interestingly, the the sour template is very, very transferable. So there's the daiquiri, which is really the same as a gimlet in that a daiquiri is 2 ounces of rum, 1 ounce of lime, and 3/4 of an ounce of sugar or simple syrup. And the gimlet is 2 ounces of gin, 1 ounce of lime, 3/4 ounces of simple syrup. It is the exact same stuff.
Wait.
Swap out the.
Are you all right, Lisa?
Sorry, I'm just dealing with dogs.
Oh.
That's okay.
What kind of dogs?
By the way, I dialed in. I'm not on video because I just got out of the pool with my cousin. So I'm like, I'm not doing that.
I wish I just got out of the pool. Like
I know.
that
It was hot here.
like, yeah.
I got all my ice ready to just rub on my forehead. So what we're looking for right now is lime juice and some simple syrup made. Simple syrup is just a 1-to-1 warm water and sugar by volume ratio. So like 1 ounce of sugar and 1 ounce of water together.
Hmm? Oh, this.
Mhm.
Okay. Getting all our measurements correct.
So it's interesting too, since we're talking about the stock market, so the Dutch originally, they made the first publicly traded company ever.
Oh, wow.
Dutch Indian company, yeah.
Exactly. And it was invented because the Spanish had colonized so much of the Netherlands, and they had such a strong hold over the East Indies and the West Indies and like Indonesia, all these areas. So what the Dutch did was they took all of they're very wealthy, they're very powerful, got them together and said, let's have this organization that is put together just to make money and to cut off trade to the Spanish, so that they will lose much of their power and we can take over our own country once again.
Interesting.
Wow.
The relationship there to gin is that the English and the Dutch fought together against the Spanish to help the Dutch take back their land. And while they were there, the English noticed that the Dutch were taking shots of Geneva and running out onto the battlefield and fighting. And they started to call it Dutch courage.
Ah, interesting.
And so William III, who had Dutch origins and family, he who was also very opposed to the French, because William III, I believe, was Protestant and Napoleon was Catholic. And so, you know, religion, big deal, big issues. And so William III, decided that he was going to cut off all trade with the French, who had a stronghold over alcohol production.
Wow.
And he was very excited at the prospect of what is now known as gin. And so he decided to make it very easy, tax-free for people to, in England at the time, the early to mid 1600s, to produce gin. So he makes it very easy for people, and they do it a lot. And it becomes a problem because there's actually no laws around gin yet. And so people are putting things like sulfuric acid and turpentine and sawdust in their gin,
God.
and it becomes awful. And people are going absolutely bonkers over gin, and it's causing a lot of health problems as well as like mental health problems. And so people start to release like propaganda against gin and pro beer, because you know you have to have one or the other. There's no option of not drinking, and so eventually they start to they throw out a $50 distiller's license, which is very expensive at the time. 50 pounds, sorry, I'm very used to the dollar. So a 50-pound distiller's license, which is very expensive for the time, and in the next 7 years only 2 distilleries open. Of course, they're still illegally producing a lot of gin, so William III looks into how to make a better version of these laws. They start to hone what can and cannot go into gin, and they start to make very, very good English gin, and it becomes an incredible product that we know today.
Interesting.
Thanks.
Let's make a gimlet. How's that sound?
So alcohol and money, they seem to go together.
Oh, they always do. Well, it's also alcohol and taxes.
Yes, yeah, well, of course.
Yeah. So the original Gimlet was just equal parts lime and Rose's lime cordial. And lime cordial is really just a very sugary lime juice that is made usually from concentrate. It was made by, what's his name? Lachlan Rose in Edinburgh in 1867. And it was made so that they could keep lime juice on ships and serve it to the sailors and not get scurvy.
So they wouldn't get scurvy, yeah.
Right. Today, we're not so worried about scurvy, but the taste is very good. And the sort of a more recent writing, not very recent, but in 1953, as you all read on our very well put together flyer, it says Raymond Chandler's The Long Goodbye. He wrote, "A real gin gimlet is equal parts lime juice or lime cordial and gin, and it beats a martini any day."
Oh.
Yeah.
Today we don't have to rely on concentrated lime. We can make our very own lime cordial, which is really just fresh lime juice. You always want it fresh, and fresh simple syrup.
Yeah.
So we make it through that?
1 ounce of lime juice,
Wait, put it
is 2 tablespoons.
So
How many tablespoons?
2 tablespoons of lime juice.
spoons of lime juice?
Oh,
I'm gonna get more lime.
okay.
I know. Should have done the sugar. I've made so much.
Did you already put that in? That's simple syrup.
I did.
Okay. So that's simple
On your
syrup.
cocktails, you always want to work from the cheapest ingredient to the most expensive ingredient, so that if you mess up, you're throwing away the easiest one.
Hey, Aaron,
Yes.
since we're doing 2 cocktails, do we need to do 4 tablespoons of lime juice? Okay.
Yeah. You can do up to about 3 drinks in the same shaker usually.
Okay.
Also, if you don't have a shaker available, a big old ball jar with a really well sealing top is great as well. As long as you have enough airspace so that you can pump in some air into your cocktail. And then we're going to do 1.5 tablespoons of our simple syrup, or 3/4 of an ounce. So the current palate is a little less sweet driven, so a little more like interested in sours and bitters. And so that's why we use just a touch less sugar. Sugar is really also used for texture. It's used to give cocktails a more viscous flavor. Alcohol is about 78% the weight of water. So it's pretty light. And what you do by adding sugar is to give it this like much richer, thicker texture, so that when you're drinking it, it's a little more enjoyable on the palate.
So 1.5 tablespoons of simple syrup, or teaspoons?
Tablespoons. So yours is going to be 3 tablespoons.
Now, I ran out of sugar because I made this rose petal syrup. So that's why I cheated today.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Aaron, the top of the standard, was it called before Boom Boom Room?
This is what.
So it's been always our favorite. We did so many parties in a corner glass angle that you could reserve that time when we were living in New York.
Yeah, it's the best place.
It's the best place.
I know, I miss it so much. I used to go up there because I'm the head bartender, so I would like make all the schedules and do all of the office stuff. So I would just go and like around like noon every day, and we don't open until 4. So I would just sit in the corner and do my work and use it as an office, and it was just so glamorous and lovely.
Is it open yet? Is not reopened yet?
No, not yet. We're opening downstairs for a little while, just for to-go cocktails to start, and then eventually we'll open the top. It's hard because the elevators too. Everyone's all
True. True.
By the way, nice elevators as well.
Yeah. And the bathrooms.
It's really good touches, right?
We'll come and see you. We'll come and see you with Greg and Roxana.
Yes, absolutely. If I will give everyone my email as well at the end. So if anyone wants to reach out about coming in, and let me know ahead of time, and I will look for you.
Thank you.
I'm just
Oh,
looking
look at
at
the
the
little
baby.
Look at the little baby.
Let's add our favorite part, which is 2 ounces of gin for each cocktail. So that's 4 tablespoons.
Yeah,
Okay.
they can put 2 ounces. It's like 1.5.
I think it was okay. All right, put in more.
I feel like yeah.
Also, if you're ever on the wagon or not drinking for any reason, what's always a fun option for a gin cocktail is if you steep some tea, oversteep it just a little bit so that it gets a little bitter. I like something like lemongrass and bergamot, something sort of like that mirrors gin flavors. You can make a really lovely gin mocktail with the same parts, just with tea instead.
Love that.
Hey, so I heard you say that you wanted to get some air into the cocktail. Why is that important?
Yeah, absolutely. So in shaking a cocktail, you'll sort of notice if you've ever, if you think about like what a margarita looks like, you sort of see like the ice and the lime and the green, and then on top you see a bit of froth just on top, like of that like white pulpy froth, and that is because you've really shaken really hard, and we'll go over hard shake and how to impart there. But then if you consider a martini, which is sort of the opposite, kind of like the quintessential stirred cocktail, you see more of like a viscous, pours like oil, very like clean, nothing on the top except maybe a little oil from a lemon twist, but no froth. And the idea is that in a stirred cocktail, you impart no air. You just let it be the silky, rich alcohol texture that you have, maybe with a little added sugar to give it some volume. But then with a shaken cocktail, you get some air, so you get some real froth and that pulp that would sometimes maybe be like not really what you're looking for in like a pulpy orange juice, but it becomes this like beautiful foam at the top that when you sip, you get your sip through the bottom of that pulp.
Interesting.
Good question. All right, let's grab our ice and our glass out of the freezer.
I know. So, which one? This one? I think this desk is pretty indestructible. Okay.
And before we shake, if you do have an extra lime just for a garnish, it's always fun to do like a lime wheel or something. So I'm gonna cut this down the middle, and then again, I'll give it like just a small amount of area and make a little circle out of my lime, right out of the middle. And that'll either go on the side of my glass with a little curve like that, which is right there.
Got a little bit more.
Or you can just plop it on top of the drink.
Yeah. Have fun at home.
All right. You always want to make sure that your glassware is ready, nice and cold, or that if you are going to do it on ice, that your glass has ice in it right before you put your ice in your shaker. Because once the ice is in there, you want to shake right away. So fill your shaker.
Okay.
And now I'll give you a little demo. Make sure that it's nice and sealed. Everyone's got different kinds of shakers, totally fine. But so when you pull, the idea is that you pull all of the liquid back here and then you throw it this way. And as you throw it, it flies over, but then you pull it back so that the liquid, as it's flying this way, the back of your shaker slaps it and it sort of explodes, and that puts a lot of air into it. It helps to do an up and a down. So, and that's called a hard shake. It takes a lot of practice, but a little pull.
Hey, Aaron, I'm a little behind just because I've been dealing with baby stuff.
What's that?
A little behind. So all we have in here right now is the lime juice and the gin and simple syrup. So how much ice, it doesn't matter, just enough with some space to shake.
Yeah, I would do a good amount of ice. You want it to become as cold as possible, as quickly as possible.
Quando versano loro.
It looks like your shaker will have a lot of room, and the ice won't overtake too much of the liquid space.
And they're new parents, so they really
they need a
Need
cocktail.
a cocktail. Okay.
So ideally, the time between shaking and pouring is as short as possible.
What about time of drinking it?
and absolutely no time at all between that and drinking. We went through a lot of history, so it's been a lot of time.
I think you should say Dutch challenge before you drink. Because we all need it.
For sure.
Nice glasses, Rosanna.
Oh,
Happy Friday.
like I'm say that my glass. I'm like obsessed with like glassware.
Mine's very full, so I'm going to take a sip so that I can cheers you all. I'm nervous. I'm going to spill it just all over my computer. Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers. Clink.
Cheers, everyone.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Here's to feeling better.
You didn't add any tonic water, did you?
No, that'll be for the next one.
Oh, this is good.
Sorry. Me. Deny.
I know. This is really good.
Another great option for this same template is swap out the gin for rum, for a daiquiri, swap out vodka, still a gimlet, just a vodka gimlet. But you can also, if you do, instead of lime juice, you use lemon juice, and instead of regular sugar, you use a honey syrup, which is the same concept. It's like 1-to-1 honey and hot water. It's called the bee's knees.
Oh, I love that.
Very
This is really good.
This is really
I think
delicious.
it's what I like about it is it's not super sweet.
No, yeah.
It's not like the roses lime juice version. It just tastes very
Fresh.
Yeah, fresh and refreshing and
Perfect.
yeah.
The sugar is definitely there mostly just to balance out the lime juice. Lime juice does have a bit of residual sugar, but it does also have like a lot of citric and malic acid. So it has a very like tart bite that will cut through, as long as you don't put more sugar than lime juice, that lime juice will get through. Plus you have gin, which is already very piney, and juniper berries are lovely. They have a bit of a fruitiness, but also a piney sort of Christmassy quality.
No, I think it's also the balance of it's not too much sour. It feels like it's just the right amount.
Delicious.
Right. Yeah.
Or it's diluted enough by the gin. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean that equal parts gin and Rose's lime is if you can imagine, it would be like 1.5 ounces of gin, which is less than we use, but then like 1.5 ounces of like mostly sugar with lime concentrate.
Right.
So let me ask you, I am usually not a gin drinker.
Yeah.
So this is an event for me. I haven't drank gin. I might have had one gin cocktail in 5 years. I had a really bad experience in college with some really bad gin.
We all have that. Not with gin necessarily, but.
It was really bad. I would go into it. I just ended up on a floor in some random person's bathroom. But anyway, if we drink a lot of these,
yeah.
How's the buzz? This does taste really good.
So 2 ounces is pretty strong. I would say that the average cocktail is 1.5 to 2 ounces. And my gin, I would say most gins are between like 40 to 45%. So that is about
45.
Yeah, I would say it's around like 2 to 2.5 beers.
Yeah, this is 44.
This is 45 too.
Yeah. So one of these cocktails is about 2.5 beers, if that contextualizes it all. But also a lot of spirits. I will say spirits have sort of had this like renaissance along with the cocktail renaissance that has just been like making craft spirits so good and so well made. The laws around them have become stricter. The production around them has become more like heartfelt and careful. And if you can find products that are like, you know, in any price range, just really well made and thought out. And then all alcohol is ethyl alcohol. I hear a lot that like, you know, if I mix this with this, then I'm, you know, I'm done for. And like, well, I think you probably had that experience because you had a lot of that and then you had a lot of that, and that's why. But,
well, yeah, because my concern is always how much sugar is being grouped with the alcohol. Usually if I'm doing a straight spirit like a whiskey or even like a wine, it's not as bad as in terms of like sugary drinks like margaritas and stuff like that.
yeah, it's important to note that distilled spirits, when you distill a spirit like whiskey, gin, vodka, rum, what it does is it takes the fermented sugar and sort of liquid that you've produced. So like in making whiskey, they take malt and they germinate it. They make the grains think that they're about to grow by putting them in warm water. And then the grain is like, oh, great, I'm about to become a plant. And so it turns all of that starch that it has ready to go. It releases enzymes and turns it all into sugar. And it's like, great, I have sugar, I'm ready, I have carbs, I'm ready to grow, I'm going to be so strong. And then they take that and they throw yeast into it, and the yeast eats all the sugar. And then turns all of that into alcohol. And there are certainly residual sugars, but then in distilling, what happens is they boil off whatever alcohol they can to into a different container. And then that is what they use to age and what they use to put into the bottle. And what ends up in the bottle is mostly very high proof alcohol, almost like 75% alcohol, typically like almost pure alcohol. No sugar, because sugar can't really like rise with air. It doesn't evaporate. And then they add water to dilute it, to reach proof that is legal, or not overproof. So
one question, one financial question.
Yeah.
How much more or less do you think the margins of drinks are?
I know that
just retail minus the direct costs.
Yeah. So at the top of the standard, we for beverage pay 13% of what we charge, but that doesn't account for all of the glassware that we break, which is a lot. And then like food has a much thinner margin, and then it also doesn't account for a lot of the kitchen items like lemon, lime, all of that. But I would say like from like, you know, and we pay like a very wholesale. Belvederes are well, and so we have a very strong connection with them. We are the biggest Moet sellers in the world. Oh
wow!
At Champagne, so we have a great relationship with them for that. So with what we sell versus what we charge for it, which is, you know, people are willing to pay a certain amount in that room. We make we pay 13% of what we sell. Now, there are so many other factors that also affect that, but yeah, if you're looking exclusively at liquid, that's what it is.
It's 80 in the 87%. So almost, Greg, we should invest in cocktails, not in the.
I know, right?
If anyone wants to open a cocktail bar, let me know.
That place is so special. I suggest everybody should have a special birthday party, celebration. We are going very often.
Hey, Greg, could you add alcohol to our portfolio, please?
Oh, absolutely. No, I actually had a client recently that she wanted to buy Budweiser. And I was like, why do you want to buy? Like, if you're going to, you know, if I'm going to invest in something that I kind of enjoy, like if I'm going to invest in cars, I want to invest in like Ferrari. You know what I mean? I don't want to invest in, I don't know, like Kia. Something. Yeah, I was like,
I get with the Ferrari.
Even if it's not a margin.
well, listen, great. Plus, they have a great ticker. The ticker for Ferrari is race. R-A-C-E. I love that.
Okay.
Because Rosanna's never going to let me buy a Ferrari. She's going to kill me first. So I just have to buy the stuff.
Porsche, exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sophie.
Yeah, we got a few Porsche people, I think, on this Zoom.
Yeah. Anyway.
That was my promise to my dad when I was a kid, was that I was going to buy him a Porsche, but then he just bought his own Porsche.
You get tired of waiting.
That's good.
I was like, sorry, it's going to take a while. I'm still a bartender.
No, you're a star tender.
They made you
Bartender, yes.
I'm going to start using that. Star tender.
Bartender. I got to start using that. We do have one more drink to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We should just do it.
Right.
So we have this to sip while we make our next one. This next one's pretty like, quick and fun. What we'll need is some rosemary. I'm gonna use a highball because it's maybe the best glass that I have available. You'll want either the base of a shaker, something that is not gonna explode if it gets a little warm. And a little bit of that extra lime juice that we had from before. And your tonic.
What is that? What's that?
And tonic.
Tonic. What is that? Tonic?
This is what we.
That's why I go to the bars and now do my.
Tonic water.
Ah, God, I didn't get that. Okay, we'll
This-
modify.
When you do make drinks, I really recommend this stuff. It's very good.
But we usually go to bars.
Right? This is good stuff, right, Aaron?
Yeah.
Water.
How much tonic water?
You'll want for 2 drinks, I would say about one of those smaller bottles.
How come your tonic water is pink?
Not the can.
Because even though I'm not
It's very special
I'm not a
tonic
big
water.
pink fan, I just love this aromatic one. I don't know.
It's really good.
I love drinking it. Although there's
Mine's just a boring white one. Clear.
Is it
It's the same
one?
brand though.
They're good.
That's really good.
Really good.
That's good too.
I do think it's because the pink one has aromatic bitters in it. So if you have Angostura bitters or any bitters, you can always add those. But if you don't, no problem. The gin will offer plenty of flavor.
Different gin. We're going to use a little bit more floral.
Yeah, we're going to go with
a little more juniper.
This has got a little more.
Aaron can tell.
Yeah, it's got a little more bergamot and other kinds of stuff with that. You know this gin, right, Aaron?
Only very recently through you, but it sounds really good. The bergamot, I love bergamot, everything.
Yeah, it has a lot of juniper and bergamot, so it's very
Is bergamot is it a flower? What is it? What kind of?
Bergamot is it's a citrus. It's very similar to yuzu. It sort of looks like between yellow and green. It's funny because there's a bergamot liqueur called Italicus. And I tried it in a spritz once and I tasted it and I was like, why does this taste like Fruity Pebbles? It reminds me of my childhood. And someone pointed out that a lot of children's cereals use bergamot as a flavor.
Really?
Really?
I had no idea.
No idea. Wow, that's pretty interesting.
That sounds amazing.
It's very
bergamot cereal.
it's like a Fruity Pebble flavored liqueur gin. Yeah.
So we're all just we're as kids, we were just getting drunk on bergamot. That's why we kept eating the Fruity Pebbles.
The first time I had, what was the name of that? We bought it in Italy. I can't remember what it was called.
Oh,
it was
yeah.
It was like a aperitivo. Anyway, it was.
Yeah, in Italy, when you have a house on the beach, there are 2 plants that you grow. Bergamot and bougainville.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And with bergamot, we do fragrance for linen, home fragrances. I never done cocktails with that, so go ahead.
Oh, it's so good.
Interesting.
Was it Italicus? Was it that sort of blue?
Italicus, yes, that's it.
Yeah, that's right.
It's Italicus margarita is so good because it's also got a little rose.
Oh my God, we should
swap out the orange liqueur for Italicus.
Wow,
Okay.
I'm gonna try that.
Yeah,
that sounds really good.
Okay, that's a class.
Oh, one thing I
That
forgot.
will be our next class, the margarita class.
I love it. That's good.
We're also gonna need some fire.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Aaron,
You got it?
Right there.
Aaron, so right now I have the tonic water,
Yes.
rest of the lime juice, and I did 4 ounces for us again of gin.
Perfect.
I already added the ice in there. Is that okay? I was about to shake it, but
Oh yeah, no problem. Well, I would put the ice just directly into the glass that you're going to use, like the highball.
okay.
I'm going to use a highball. You can also use like Rosanna said, the Copa is very traditional Spanish gin and tonic. They always put like so many garnishes. The garnishing there is wild. It's like slices of fruit and juniper berries. Yeah, it's like they're trying to remake gin altogether into a whole new infused spirit. If you don't have tonic, if you do have soda water, I would say try it with that, or try it with like maybe some bitters in soda water, or we can always make another gimlet.
Okay, we're ready.
Okay.
Ready when you
So
are.
save 1 sprig of your rosemary for garnish. The other one, what we're going to do, and I'm going to show you sort of what I have. I have this like wooden, it's kind of wet cutting board kind of space. You want to be able to put something on fire on it without it totally getting destroyed or burning. So something like that, a clean countertop, or a really great coaster.
Got my coaster.
Yeah. It's a tile, so it won't burn. Okay.
I have a fan over here, so my lighter's not going.
We could do it on that.
Hope this doesn't set off the smoke alarm.
It won't.
I know, we'll try. So something that I noticed with flamed and smoked cocktails is that if you, while it's still lit or just lit, throw the top over it and let the flame die out under whatever dome you're using, like this. A lot of smoke gets produced and gets pulled up into there from the extinguishing.
That's very nice. It's a great idea. Very cool.
And you'll see it sort of like lose its oxygen and become smoke. Very
So
cool.
hair is a component of cocktails.
What is?
Hair.
Oh
hair.
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Component.
Yeah, and it depends on what kind of cocktail it is. Like I was saying, a martini, Manhattan, Negroni, you don't really want air. You want just like as it is, just cold. And that's why we stir, is just to dilute slightly and to add change the temperature, make it cold. So a lot of times, actually, what I'll do if I'm making something like a martini, or if I want like a dinner for 6 people and I want to make a Negroni, but stirring 6 drinks is a little difficult. What you can do always is make a bottle of it, add some fresh water, and just freeze that bottle. And you can have that in the freezer for about like 4 or 5 hours before your friends get there. And you make this like really beautiful, always perfect, always perfectly chilled Negroni, Martini, Manhattan cocktail. And you actually don't have to do anything, and they think you did it like magic.
Wow.
So what's the most fashionable cocktail of 2020?
Ooh.
No.
There you go.
Or what will it be?
I think
The quarantine.
Some germ killing type of.
Well, I think that the classics are really being looked at again, and I think the Negroni really made its debut, and the Aperol Spritz, and the people loved a martini in the early 2010s, and so I think where we're going is actually a daiquiri, but like a really well-made daiquiri, because I think that's becoming like a bartender handshake. And I think people are interested in, like, what do the people in this industry like, and what are they interested in, and what are they drinking? And so what they do is they learn about that, and they talk to bartenders, and they say, like, what do you drink? And I think a lot of bartenders drink a daiquiri. And
Really?
you know, if someone walks up to my bar and orders a daiquiri, I know that they are probably a bartender checking out if I can make a daiquiri.
Oh, interesting.
That's fascinating to me because I always thought of like daiquiris as kind of a lame, you know, one of those old school kind of lame drinks in the 80s or something. You know, I guess it's making a comeback.
Yeah, it's if you look at the classic recipe, and this actually sort of ties in with our first cocktail, was that daiquiris came from punches, and punches were made because sailors were out on their boats and they were given rations of usually rum, but sometimes gin, to you know, have clean water every day. And that was really like the best way to do it, was to give them gin or rum, because that couldn't go bad and it had some water in it. And so at some point they started to pull down the proof, because they realized that giving you know, sailors 75% alcohol,
Everybody's getting drunk.
of it, everyone's getting drunk and not doing their job. So you know, when anyone takes away your right, you always question them after that. And so the sailors would always ask, you know, how do I know that you are giving me the correct amount of alcohol, and the alcohol is not being diluted too much? And this is where the word proof comes from, is because they would take some of the alcohol, mix it with gunpowder, and if it lights on fire, then they know that it is at least 50% alcohol by volume.
Interesting.
Wow.
Doesn't, then it is under proof, and there is no proof that there is enough alcohol.
Interesting.
Great piece of information.
Thurston Hal the Third.
I was always wondering where that came from.
Oh,
It's
interesting.
pretty weird, but it's a lot of drinking culture, believe it or not, comes from sailors.
Or pirates, probably.
Yeah. Why is the rum?
Pirate sailors.
Okay, so
What were the really super popular drinks in the 20s?
in the 1920s.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's actually, it's interesting. The 1920s were right as Prohibition was beginning. But what would happen was a lot of Americans would leave America to go drink. And so there was like Harry's New York Bar that was set in Paris. But it was called Harry's New York Bar because it was made to look just like an American bar. And all these Americans came in. It was almost exclusively patronized by Americans, because Americans left their country to go drink in Paris. And that was where the French 75 was invented, which was related to the Tom Collins. And it was called the French 75 because it was named after a weapon that the French revolutionaries used that was the 75 millimeter. And it was said that the French 75 was like a Tom Collins, but it packed a punch, because instead of topping it with soda, you topped it with champagne. So there was an added alcoholic element. And then also there's, a hotel and golfing resort in Mexico that was American owned, called Agua Caliente, which means warm waters. And there they had what was called the Sunrise Tequila, which we now know as the Tequila Sunrise. And this was in 1929. And that was based on something that was originally called a Daisy, which was sort of like a gin sour or tequila sour or a whiskey sour, but topped with a little bit of soda and some orange liqueur. And then, so if you wanted a Tequila Daisy, the old style, which tequila is very popular, of course, in Mexico, you would go up to the bar and order Tequila Daisy. Now, what they would do is, we know a sour is citrus, like a lemon or lime, sugar, and the spirit. And so to make this tequila sour, what they would do is they would put tequila, they would put limes, because in America, in North America, it was more traditional to use lemon, but in Mexico they had limes because that is what grows there better. And then they would have some sugar, and they would top it with some soda, throw in a little orange liqueur. Well, the name Daisy, the word Daisy in Spanish is margarita. So you would be ordering a tequila margarita.
Oh,
That made its way to America, and it's tequila, lime, sugar, and orange liqueur. And the soda water sort of fell out of favor because we could shake drinks better and make them, frothy and airy without all of that added soda water.
Interesting.
Tequila margarita. So, okay, so we have captured a bunch of smoke in here. So we're going to put in a little bit of our lime juice, about half an ounce of lime juice, which is 1 tablespoon per drink. And you'll see some smoke come out. And then as quickly as possible, 2 ounces per drink of gin.
Wait,
Throw in just a little bit of ice. And then we'll give this just a quick reshake. We don't want to shake it a ton because we're not trying to get totally rid of this smoke that we've sort of cultivated in the glass. We just a few shakes in here. You can use fresh ice or not in the glass that you're going to use. You can also just pour the whole thing. I like to just pour the whole thing because you're not going to strain out any of the extra like smoky flavor, and then top it with whatever ice you have. And then finally, a little bit of our tonic water.
We want to put that. Do we want to shake it first? No.
Now again, we can throw on a lime wheel. I would say a lime wedge is very functional. It's really so that if I, as a bartender, make a drink that is not as sour as you would like, or too sweet or something, and you want to balance it out as the drinker, you can take your lime wedge and squeeze it in and add a little bit of lime juice. That's really, that's like the function of a lime wedge. A lime wheel is a little less functional. It's a little more pretty, a little more, you know, just a tropical flair, but really there's no function. It's kind of difficult to squeeze. Then what you can do is you can take your other rosemary that you have. What you can do with this wheel though, is put it through the middle. Let's see if I can do it, mine's dry.
Oh, geez, I like that.
Through the middle of the lime?
Yeah, right through the like bullseye center. And then you can float it. And this way it'll stand up.
That I love.
Yeah.
Your egg will stand up.
Yeah.
And then you can relight this.
Ooh, fancy.
And blow it out. And then you have just a little bit of smoke coming out. Just be careful to not burn yourself. It's not worth it.
Okay.
There you go.
Love it.
Cheers.
Way you go.
Any next step questions?
Okay, let's have a toast.
Nice.
Here we go.
Toast, everybody,
Cheers.
Yay!
for our toasted rosemary.
The lighter.
Oh my God. That is so good.
Why can I not make drinks this well when I'm by myself?
You need a story.
My
You need
question.
a story. You need the history.
Yeah. My
Great
drinks
history,
never
Aaron.
taste this good, honestly.
Great history.
I know, right?
Fantastic. Great storyteller.
I know, I kept you guys for a long time.
All the sailor stories, I think.
You know,
That's a challenge.
I was a competitive sailor when I was a kid.
Where'd you grow up?
Fort Lauderdale, Florida.
Ah,
I sailed in Coconut Grove.
oh, you did? It's cool there. Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit more. This is delicious.
Mm.
Thank you.
Yeah, this one's a little more refreshing than the first one. The first one's a little more sweet.
Yeah. Like tart, sweet, and you can always
Yeah, it
go
is
back.
tart.
But this one is like, yeah, it's definitely more like light, refreshing, summery.
This has been my drink for the, you know, the entire time of for COVID.
Miss Rona.
Miss Rona. I've been drinking this a lot. Yeah, probably two. No. But anyway, yeah.
Outstanding. Mm.
Fun.
So also, in regards to that, I would say like usually before dinner you want something that's like a little lower in alcohol, so you'll drink something like this highball type of drink, and then afterwards to help digestion you want something that's a little stronger, maybe even just like straight gin on the rocks, and that's supposed to help with
Yeah. Did you say the gin was supposed to help with digestion as well?
I feel like any sort of strong alcohol.
Right. Yeah. Interesting.
But you know why that is? I'm just curious because I've heard that before.
Yeah, it's supposed to help like calm your stomach, just in terms of like blood flow and all that. But I don't know that it's completely true. I know that I agree with like Amaro's, like a very bitter spirit.
Interesting.
Like that as a follow up to dinner, because it's got more like of an herbaceous, like settling quality. Montenegro or Braulio or Campari, any of those are great.
You out,
Cheers.
Sophie?
Cheers, Sophie.
All right.
That was so fun. Thank you so much. I'm going to dinner.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Aaron.
So, if anyone would like to send me an email if you do want to come visit, anytime, Aaron M. Robin at outlook.com.
Yeah, I may email you for the exact recipe of the first cocktail again.
Yeah, we'll share your email with everyone that attended so that they can.
And the Instagram.
And Instagram.
Instagram is.
This is my first. This is my
So what's the Instagram?
Instagram. Go ahead, Aaron.
Oh, no, Miriam saying was sharing the sentiment of this was her first taste of gin since high school.
Oh wow.
Aaron, you are also on Instagram, right?
Yes, I am. So mine is someone's problem.
Someone's problem. I loved it.
The tagline is someone else's solution. So
Oh yeah,
I like it.
I just friended you.
Thank you.
Outstanding.
Yay.
Well, thank you all so much for
Great.
attending. Thank you, Aaron. This is really interesting, and you're just like an encyclopedia of alcohol history.
He's a wealth of knowledge.
He is, absolutely. He is.
Yeah.
But thank you everyone for coming. I hope you're enjoying your drinks and salud. Right?
Salud. Thank you for the invite.
Welcome.
No, the baby is adorable, by the way. The baby. Good baby. Look at that baby.
Isn't she adorable?
Really cute.
I know.
Oh my God. And I haven't even had a drink. Oh my God. Yeah, please share that. Aaron, you are fantastic. Thank you so much for the stories. They were beyond.
Oh,
Look at the baby.
Look at the baby.
The cuteness.
So
You're the best. Thank you, Rosanna, for making connection.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you,
ciao.
Rosanna.
Ciao. Bye,
Ciao,
guys.
ciao.